Imagine a world where the foundations of society begin to crack under the weight of economic pressures, rising costs, and diminishing opportunities, forcing people to rethink every aspect of their lives, including relationships. In this shifting landscape, many women may find themselves facing increased challenges in maintaining independence, leading them to make pragmatic choices in partnerships that prioritize immediate stability over long term commitment. But what if these choices create a cycle of temporary alliances rather than genuine connections? And what happens when men, having been encouraged to prioritize their own peace and self reliance, decide they no longer wish to participate in that cycle? Stay with me until the end because I'm going to break down exactly why this dynamic is emerging, how it affects everyone involved, and what the long term consequences could be for society as a whole. If you want more great Angry Guy content and to get every single video the moment we release it, make sure to like this video, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell and select all so you never miss an update. Also, if you are serious about protecting and safeguarding your assets while growing your wealth in these uncertain times, check out Angry's Crypto Academy, where you can learn how to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency effectively and securely. The Academy is linked in the description of this video, so pause right now and go check it out to start building your financial future today. And if you are enjoying these Angry Guy videos and the straightforward insights they provide, you can show your support by buying me a Red Bull using the link in the description of the video. It helps keep the energy high and the content coming. Let us dive deep into this topic because it is one that touches on the core of how modern society is evolving, particularly in how men and women interact amid growing hardships. As the cost of living continues to climb, jobs become less secure, and traditional paths to stability seem to slip away for many. People are forced to adapt in ways that prioritize survival above all else. For women who have been encouraged for decades to pursue independence, career success, and personal fulfillment, the reality of a tougher economic environment might push some toward decisions that look like settling in relationships, but these choices often come with underlying motivations rooted in necessity rather than mutual respect or deep emotional bonds. They might enter into partnerships with men who can provide resources or security in the moment, using those relationships as a means to navigate the difficulties, but without the intention of true loyalty or long term dedication. Instead, these connections could become transactional, where the man is utilized for what he offers right now and then set aside when a better option appears or when the immediate need is met. This is not to say every woman will behave this way, but in a society where desperation creeps in due to external pressures, patterns like this can emerge more frequently, leading to a landscape where men feel exploited rather than valued. Men, on the other hand, are waking up to these dynamics in greater numbers than ever before. For years, many men have been told through various cultural messages that they are not needed in the traditional sense, that women can thrive without them, and that pursuing relationships often comes with significant risks, including emotional pain, financial burdens, and legal challenges in the event of a breakup. When women collectively pushed the narrative of independence and self sufficiency, a large portion of men took it to heart and responded by stepping back entirely. They discovered something profound in that retreat: peace, solitude, and the freedom to focus on their own growth, hobbies, finances, and mental well being without the constant drama or demands of modern dating. This movement, often referred to in online communities as men going their own way or simply choosing solitude, has given countless men a sense of calm and purpose they never had in turbulent relationships. Once a man experiences that level of tranquility, the idea of returning to the chaos of dealing with potential disloyalty, games, or being used as a temporary resource becomes unthinkable. Why would he risk his hard earned peace for something that history and personal experience have shown to be unreliable? To understand this fully, we need to look at the broader picture of how society has shifted over the past few decades. Women gained unprecedented access to education, careers, and social freedoms, which was a positive development in many ways, allowing them to build lives on their own terms. However, alongside that empowerment came a cultural shift that sometimes downplayed the value of men in relationships, portraying them as optional or even problematic. Messages in media, education, and social circles often emphasized that women do not need men to be happy or successful, and in some cases suggested that traditional male roles were outdated or toxic. Men heard this loud and clear. And rather than fighting against it or begging for inclusion, many simply accepted it and walked away. They invested in themselves, built stronger friendships with other men, pursued passions, traveled, improved their health, and focused on financial independence. The result? A generation of men who are content alone, who see relationships not as a necessity, but as a potential liability. Now, as economic realities bite harder, with inflation eroding savings, housing becoming unattainable for many single earners, and job markets favoring certain sectors over others, the independence that was once celebrated might start to feel more like a burden for some women. Raising children alone, covering all bills without a partner to share the load, and navigating career setbacks become exponentially harder when resources are scarce. In response, some may turn to relationships as a safety net, seeking out men who can offer stability, even if the attraction or commitment is not fully there. This could manifest as settling for whoever is available and willing at the time, providing attention and companionship in exchange for support. But loyalty? That might not follow, because if the foundation is necessity rather than genuine desire, the moment conditions improve or another option presents itself, the relationship could dissolve quickly. Worse still, some might maintain multiple such arrangements simultaneously, stringing along several men to maximize security, each one unaware of the others, all while planning an exit when no longer needed. This behavior, while understandable from a survival standpoint in desperate times, creates a minefield for men who enter relationships without full awareness. Men would need to become extraordinarily cautious, constantly vigilant for signs of inconsistency, lack of true investment, or hidden agendas. They would have to question motives, watch for red flags like rapid escalation without deep connection, or patterns of hot and cold treatment that keep them hooked just enough to provide value. Dating would transform into a high stakes game of detection, where trust is earned slowly, if at all, and an emotional investment is guarded fiercely. But here's the reality: most men, having already tasted the serenity of solitude, will look at this landscape and decide it is simply not worth the effort. Why engage in constant vigilance when peace is achievable alone? Why risk being used and discarded when self reliance offers fulfillment without the heartbreak? Let us tell a story to illustrate this point more vividly. Picture a young man in his late 20s working a decent job, living modestly but comfortably in his own apartment. A few years ago, he was deeply involved in the dating scene and chasing relationships, dealing with rejections, arguments, and the emotional roller coaster that comes with trying to build something meaningful. He poured time, money, and energy into dates, gifts, and supporting partners through their challenges, only to face breakups that left him drained and questioning his worth. Then, influenced by online discussions and personal reflection, he decided to step away entirely. He deleted the dating apps, focused on the gym, picked up new skills, saved money aggressively, and spent weekends with close friends or pursuing solo adventures. For the first time, his life felt balanced, stress levels dropped, and he realized how much unnecessary turmoil he had been inviting in. Fast forward to today, as society tightens its grip with higher costs and fewer safety nets, he notices women around him expressing frustration, about the lack of good men, complaining that guys are not approaching or committing. Some even reach out to him indirectly, showing interest that was not there before. But he sees through it clearly now. The interest coincides with tougher times, and he knows that jumping back in would mean risking his peace for something likely temporary. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. He politely declines, keeps building his life, and feels no regret. Multiply this story by millions, and you see the emerging trend. Women who find themselves in this position are essentially facing the consequences of a cultural push that encouraged complete independence without fully acknowledging the mutual benefits of stable partnerships. When times were good, the narrative worked for many, allowing freedom and choice without immediate repercussions. But in hardship, that same independence can isolate, making survival harder without a reliable support system. Turning to men now, after years of messaging that they are dispensable, often meets resistance because those men have adapted and found contentment elsewhere. They are not angry or vengeful, they are simply done participating in a system that does not value them beyond utility. This leaves women to navigate the challenges largely on their own, relying on family, friends, government assistance where available, or their own resilience. The intensity of the shift cannot be understated because it represents a fundamental realignment in gender dynamics. Men are not returning to the old ways because they have discovered a better path for themselves. Solitude offers predictability. No arguments over trivial matters. No fear of false accusations. No dividing assets in court. And no emotional manipulation. It allows full control over time and resources directed toward personal goals like building wealth, health, or legacy through mentorship and community without romantic entanglements. As more men share their positive experiences in this lifestyle, it inspires others to follow, creating a snowball effect that further reduces the pool of available committed men. For women, this means competition intensifies among those still seeking traditional relationships, but with fewer high quality options willing to engage. Some may double down on independence, excelling in careers and building strong networks, which is admirable and achievable for many. Others might resort to the strategies mentioned earlier, leading to short term gains but long term dissatisfaction and reputational risks when patterns become known. Society as a whole suffers because stable families and partnerships contribute to community strength, child rearing, and economic productivity. But when trust erodes on both sides, those structures weaken. The story does not end with that one young man in his apartment, because this pattern is repeating itself across cities, countries, and cultures in ways that are impossible to ignore once you start paying attention. Think about the conversations happening in workplaces, gyms, and online forums where men gather to share their experiences. A man in his 30s might talk about how he finally paid off his debts, built an emergency fund, and started investing consistently after removing the financial drain of constant dating and supporting partners who contributed little in return. Another might describe the mental clarity that comes from no longer dealing with jealousy games, social media monitoring, or the anxiety of wondering if his efforts are truly appreciated. These are not isolated incidents. They are becoming the norm for a growing segment of men who have chosen self preservation over societal expectations. As economic pressures mount with higher rents, stagnant wages in many sectors, and the rising costs of basic necessities, the appeal of a simple, low drama life only grows stronger. Men see the writing on the wall and recognize that adding a relationship layered with potential instability would only complicate their ability to thrive in an already challenging environment. Now consider the perspective of women navigating the same harsh realities. Many have spent years building careers, pursuing advanced degrees, and establishing lifestyles that reflect their independence, often encouraged by family, friends, and broader culture to prioritize personal achievement over early partnership or family. That path brought freedom, travel, social experiences, and a sense of accomplishment that previous generations could only dream of. Yet, when the economy tightens and the support systems that once felt reliable begin to falter, the weight of going it completely alone can become overwhelming. Childcare costs skyrocket, healthcare expenses rise unpredictably, and the dream of homeownership slips further out of reach without dual incomes or shared resources. In response, some women may shift their approach to relationships, becoming more open to partnerships that offer practical benefits, even if the romantic spark is not fully there. They might connect with men who are stable providers, offering affection and companionship in exchange for help with bills, housing, or general security. The intention is survival, not malice, but the outcome can still feel like exploitation to the man involved, especially if commitment is not reciprocal or if the relationship ends abruptly once stability is regained. This dynamic creates a feedback loop that accelerates the divide. Men who sense they are being chosen for utility rather than genuine desire pull back even further, reinforcing their commitment to solitude. They share warnings in communities, pointing out common signs such as sudden interest after years of indifference, quick moves toward cohabitation without deep emotional foundation, or reluctance to contribute equally while expecting full support. These observations spread rapidly, arming more men with the knowledge to protect themselves. The result is a shrinking pool of men willing to take the risks associated with modern relationships, leaving women who are genuinely seeking meaningful connections frustrated and confused about where all the committed men have gone. The answer is simple. They listened when society told them they were not essential, and they found ways to live fulfilling lives without being needed in that traditional capacity. Let us expand on another real world example to bring this home. Imagine a professional woman in her mid 30s, successful in her field, living in a major city with a vibrant social life. For years, she dated casually, focusing on men who matched her energy, excitement, and status, often passing over those who were more stable but less thrilling. She embraced the message that she could have it all on her own terms, building a network of friends and enjoying her freedom. Then the economy shifts, layoffs hit her industry, and suddenly the high cost lifestyle becomes unsustainable alone. Savings dwindle faster than expected, and the pressure mounts. She starts looking differently at the reliable men she once overlooked, reaching out to old contacts or joining apps with a new mindset focused on security. She finds a partner willing to help, moves in quickly to share expenses, and feels relief as the immediate crisis passes. But over time, the lack of deeper attraction leads to dissatisfaction. And when a better job opportunity arises or another more exciting prospect appears, she exits the relationship, leaving the man hurt and questioning why he invested so much. He, in turn, shares his story online or with friends, adding another layer of caution to the collective male consciousness. Multiply this scenario across millions of lives, and you begin to see how trust erodes systematically. The key point here is that men are not obligated to rescue anyone from the consequences of choices made in easier times. When women collectively embraced and promoted the idea of complete independence, many men accepted it at face value and adapted accordingly. They did not protest loudly or demand inclusion. They quietly restructured their lives around self sufficiency. Gym memberships rose, personal finance education exploded in popularity among men. Travel groups for solo adventurers grew, and mental health improved as drama decreased. The peace found in this lifestyle is addictive in the best way, providing a stable foundation that chaotic relationships often undermine. Returning to a world of potential games, where motives must be constantly questioned and loyalty is uncertain, feels like stepping backward into avoidable stress. Most men who have experienced both sides choose peace every time, without resentment, simply because it serves them better. As this trend deepens, society will feel the ripple effects in multiple areas. Birth rates may continue to decline as fewer stable partnerships form, leading to long term demographic challenges that governments already worry about. Communities built around families weaken when more individuals opt for solitary or non traditional living arrangements. Economic growth could slow if fewer households combine resources to make larger purchases like homes or start businesses together. Mental health services might see shifts as women grapple with increased isolation, while men report higher satisfaction in their chosen paths. Policymakers may scramble to address these shifts with incentives for family formation, but cultural attitudes are harder to change through legislation alone. The underlying issue remains trust, and once broken on such a wide scale, rebuilding it requires genuine effort from all sides. Women who recognize this early can adapt in positive ways by focusing on building authentic connections rather than pragmatic ones. This means approaching relationships with transparency, equal contribution, and true emotional investment from the start, rather than waiting until necessity drives the decision. It means valuing men for who they are, not just what they provide, and demonstrating loyalty through actions over time. Those who do this successfully often find willing partners among men who never fully walked away or who are open to the right situation. But for others who continue patterns of temporary alliances or multiple overlapping arrangements, the risks grow higher as awareness spreads. Men talk, communities share information, and reputations travel faster than ever in the digital age. What might work short term often backfires long term when trust is repeatedly breached. From the male perspective, hypervigilance becomes second nature for those still open to dating. They learn to watch for inconsistencies, such as professed independence clashing with quick requests for support, or social media activity that suggests divided attention. They prioritize women who show consistent effort, financial responsibility, and clear communication over those who rely on charm or physical appeal alone. But again, many conclude that even this filtered approach carries too much risk compared to the guaranteed calm of going it alone. Investing in stocks, real estate, personal development, or meaningful friendships offers returns without the potential for devastating loss. Relationships, in contrast, can wipe out years of progress emotionally and financially if they end badly. This is not about blame. It is about understanding cause and effect in a changing world. Actions and cultural messages have consequences, and when one group signals that another is optional, that group may take the hint and thrive independently. Women now facing harder times cannot reasonably expect men who found peace in solitude to abandon it just because circumstances shifted. The responsibility falls on individuals to navigate these realities thoughtfully, building lives that align with their true needs rather than societal narratives that may no longer serve them. Looking ahead, the men who have walked away are focused on legacy in different forms. Some mentor younger men, sharing knowledge about finances, health, and emotional resilience. Others build businesses, create content, or contribute to communities in non romantic ways. They travel the world, pursue extreme hobbies, or simply enjoy quiet evenings with complete control over their time. Their lives are rich in ways that do not require a partner, proving that fulfillment comes from within and through chosen connections, not obligatory ones. As more men join this path, the cultural narrative shifts further, making it normal rather than exceptional to prioritize personal peace. Women, meanwhile, have opportunities to redefine strength in ways that include mutual support without sacrificing independence. Strong networks of family and friends, career advancement, financial literacy, and community involvement can provide buffers against hardship. Those who cultivate these alongside openness to genuine partnership often fare best, creating balanced lives that weather storms effectively. But relying on temporary relationships as a primary strategy carries inherent instability, as the foundation crumbles when the immediate need passes. The bottom line is that men who discovered peace in solitude are not looking back. And the dynamics driving this choice are only intensifying as society becomes more challenging. Women facing increased desperation may turn to pragmatic choices, but loyalty built on necessity rarely endures. Men will remain vigilant where they engage at all, but most will continue walking their own path, content in the freedom they have claimed. The divide we are witnessing is not some temporary fluctuation that will correct itself once the economy improves or attitudes soften. It is a structural shift built on years of cultural messaging, personal experiences, and rational responses to risk and reward. Men who have walked away are not sitting around waiting for conditions to change so they can rush back into the dating market. They are actively constructing lives that do not require a romantic partner to feel complete or successful. They are buying property on their own, even if it takes longer or means starting smaller. They are traveling in groups or solo, seeing parts of the world that previous generations only dreamed about while tied down by family obligations. They are lifting heavier weights, running farther distances, reading more books, mastering new skills, and building wealth at rates that surprise even themselves once the constant outflow of relationship expenses stops. The freedom to allocate every dollar and every hour exactly as they choose creates a compounding effect that makes the solitary path not just tolerable, but genuinely preferable. Contrast that with the growing frustration expressed in various corners of society where women voice confusion about the disappearance of reliable men. Articles, podcasts, and social media threads increasingly ask where all the good men have gone, why men are not approaching anymore, why commitment seems so rare. The honest answer is that those men are right where they have always been, only now they are focused inward rather than outward. They are at the gym at 6 in the morning, at work building their careers, in their garages working on projects, or on hiking trails, clearing their minds. They simply stopped making themselves constantly available for pursuit because the cost benefit analysis no longer adds up. When the cultural script told them they were optional, they took the option and ran with it, discovering along the way that life without the turbulence of modern relationships is calmer, richer, and more productive. To make this even clearer, let us follow the journey of another man, this one in his early 40s, who spent most of his adult life in serial relationships and one marriage that ended painfully. He gave everything he had: time, money, emotional support, only to watch it unravel through no fault he could clearly identify beyond shifting priorities on the other side. After the divorce, he spent years recovering financially and emotionally, rebuilding from near zero while covering obligations that lingered long after the relationship ended. Once he finally reached solid ground, he looked around at the dating landscape and saw the same patterns repeating: high expectations paired with low reciprocity, social media validation seeking that undermined pair bonds, and a general sense that commitment was conditional on constant performance. Rather than dive back in, he chose solitude deliberately. He bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood, adopted a dog for companionship, joined a men's group for deep conversations, and poured his energy into mentoring younger guys at work and volunteering in his community. His weekends are filled with woodworking, long motorcycle rides, and hosting barbecues for friends. His bank account grows steadily. His health is the best it has ever been, and his stress levels are minimal. When old acquaintances ask if he is seeing anyone, he smiles and says he is happier than he has ever been on his own. Women who express interest now are met with polite distance because he knows the peace he has built is fragile only if he allows chaos back in. Stories like this are multiplying because the incentives align powerfully in favor of self reliance for men. Every time a man shares how much better his life became after stepping away, it plants a seed in others who are still struggling in unfulfilling relationships or exhausting dating cycles. The message spreads. You do not need to tolerate inconsistency, drama, or one sided effort to prove your worth. You can opt out entirely and still build an extraordinary life. As more men opt out, the social pressure that once kept them chasing validation diminishes, replaced by a new norm where independence is celebrated among men in the same way it has been celebrated among women for decades. Women facing economic hardship may feel tempted to secure quick stability through relationships, but the long term viability of that strategy is questionable at best. A partnership entered primarily for survival rarely fosters the deep trust and mutual respect needed to endure further challenges. The man involved often senses the imbalance, even if it is never spoken aloud, and resentment builds quietly on both sides. She may feel trapped in a connection she entered out of need rather than want, while he feels used as a resource rather than valued as a person. When the pressure eases, even slightly, she may seek an exit towards something that feels more authentic, leaving him attuned to recover from yet another investment that yielded no lasting return. He then joins the ranks of men who warn others, further solidifying the wall of caution that now exists. This is why vigilance becomes essential for any man still willing to engage. He must learn to spot the difference between genuine mutual interest and situational convenience. And signs might include rapid escalation toward commitment or cohabitation, discussions of financial struggles early in dating, or reluctance to plan independent futures while leaning heavily on shared resources. He must watch how she speaks about past relationships. Does she take any accountability, or is every ex portrayed as the villain? Does she invest equal effort in planning dates, communication, and emotional support, or does the burden fall mostly on him? These are not paranoid questions. They are practical filters developed from collective experience, shared across forums, videos, and private conversations. Yet, even with strong filters, the risk remains high enough that many men conclude the game is not worth playing. And consider the broader societal implications as this trend solidifies over the coming years. Traditional family formation continues to decline, with marriage rates already at historic lows in many countries and showing no signs of rebounding significantly. Birth rates fall below replacement levels, creating future challenges for economies reliant on growing or stable populations. Governments may introduce incentives, tax breaks, housing assistance, childcare subsidies, but material benefits alone rarely reverse deeply ingrained cultural shifts. People do not form families because it is financially advantageous if the emotional and personal costs feel too high. Men who have found contentment alone are not swayed by promises of slight economic relief if it means surrendering their hard won peace. Women who thrive in this new reality are often those who double down on genuine self sufficiency while remaining open to partnership on equal terms. They build strong careers, maintain solid friendships, manage finances wisely, and approach relationships with transparency and reciprocity. They understand that loyalty cannot be demanded after years of messaging independence. It must be earned through consistent actions over time. These women frequently find partners among the smaller pool of men still open to commitment, creating balanced unions that stand stronger against external pressures. But they are the exception rather than the rule in a landscape where short term thinking dominates for some. For the majority navigating desperation, the path forward is harder, relying on multiple overlapping arrangements to cobble together security might work temporarily, but it carries enormous risks. Discovery leads to confrontation and loss of all support streams at once. Reputations spread quickly in tight social circles or through mutual connections. Emotional toll accumulates as genuine connection remains elusive amid transactional interactions. Over time, the strategy erodes self respect and closes doors to healthier possibilities. Far better to invest in skills, networks, and resilience that provide lasting security independent of any one person. Men, meanwhile, continue fortifying their positions. They diversify income streams, build emergency funds large enough to weather years of disruption, prioritize health to reduce future medical costs, and cultivate rich social lives that do not revolve around romance. They form brotherhoods that offer the loyalty, support, and camaraderie once sought primarily in partnerships. These networks provide accountability for goals, celebration of wins, and backup during setbacks, all without the complications of romantic entanglement. The strength of these male bonds surprises many who assumed men were incapable of deep emotional connection outside of women. In reality, freed from the need to perform for female approval, men often connect more authentically with each other. As we move deeper into this decade and beyond, the gap will likely widen further unless a major cultural recalibration occurs. Technology accelerates the trend by enabling remote work, solo entertainment, and virtual communities that reduce the need for local romantic ties. Delivery services, automation, and AI companions handle many practical and emotional roles once filled by partners. Economic uncertainty pushes more people toward minimalism and self reliance rather than shared risk. All these factors reinforce the rationality of walking away for men and highlight the challenges of rebuilding trust after years of mixed messages. The women left navigating this reality on their own terms will need to confront the full weight of the independence once celebrated. That means no fallback option when times get tough, no shared burden for major expenses, no built in companion for life's milestones. Many will rise to the challenge magnificently, proving that true strength lies in adaptability and inner resourcefulness. Others will struggle, turning to family, government programs, or community support where available. But expecting men who found peace elsewhere to return en masse is unrealistic without profound shifts in attitudes and behavior across the board. Ultimately, this is a story of consequences unfolding in real time. Messages sent over decades that men are optional, that independence is the highest goal, that traditional roles are outdated, have been received and acted upon. Men did not rebel, they complied and discovered a better way for themselves. Now, as hardship increases, the full implications come into focus. Women facing desperation may seek temporary harbors, but loyalty born of necessity rarely lasts. Men, guarding their peace fiercely, will remain vigilant at best and disengaged at large. All roads continue pointing in one clear direction, men walking away, building lives of purpose and calm, while society adjusts to a new equilibrium built on individual choice rather than paired obligation. The transformation we are observing in gender dynamics is not confined to one country or one socioeconomic group. It is a global phenomenon playing out in real time across developed nations, where economic pressures intersect with decades of shifting cultural norms. In places where housing costs have outpaced wage growth for years, where student debt burdens linger into middle age, and where job security feels like a relic of the past, Individuals are reevaluating every commitment that adds risk or expense to their lives. For men, romantic relationships have increasingly fallen into that category of optional risk, especially when the potential downsides include financial ruin, emotional devastation, and loss of personal autonomy. The rational choice for a growing number is to minimize exposure by stepping away entirely and channeling energy into areas with more predictable returns: health, wealth, skills, and chosen friendships. This is not a phase or a protest. It is a permanent lifestyle upgrade for those who have made the shift. Let us paint another picture to show how widespread this has become. Consider a tradesman in his late 20s working as an electrician in a mid sized city. He earns a solid income, lives frugally in a small rented apartment, and has no debt beyond his tools and truck. A few years ago, he was actively dating, spending weekends on apps, paying for dinners and activities, and occasionally helping partners with rent or car payments when they hit rough patches. He enjoyed the companionship but grew tired of the inconsistency. Plans canceled last minute, arguments over social media interactions, expectations that he would always be the one to drive or pay. After one particularly draining breakup where he lost money he had lent freely, he decided to take a break from dating altogether. That break turned into a lifestyle. He used the extra money to buy better tools, take advanced certifications, and start a side business doing weekend jobs. His circle of friends expanded through work and the gym, and he found himself with more free time than ever before. Weekends became road trips with buddies, fishing excursions, or just quiet days restoring old motorcycles in his garage. His savings grew quickly without the constant outflow, and for the first time, he started seriously planning for a house down payment on his own. Women at work or through mutual friends occasionally show interest, especially as economic news gets grimmer and people talk openly about struggling with bills. But he sees the timing clearly now and keeps his boundaries firm. His life is too good, too calm to gamble on bringing in potential chaos. This electrician story echoes thousands of others in similar trades, in offices, in warehouses, in tech hubs, and in rural areas alike. Men from all walks of life are reaching the same conclusion through personal experience and shared knowledge. Peace is achievable alone, and once achieved, it is fiercely protected. The cultural messaging that told them to man up, provide, and pursue despite rejection or risk no longer holds sway when the alternative is so manifestly better. They are not bitter. Many express gratitude for the lessons learned and the freedom gained. They simply refuse to go backward. Women entering this new reality with eyes open have a clear set of choices ahead. They can continue building genuine independence through career growth, financial discipline, strong social networks, and personal development, accepting that partnership may or may not happen along the way. This path offers dignity and control, even if it means tighter budgets and solo milestones. Alternatively, they can seek partnerships that combine emotional authenticity with practical mutual support from the outset, demonstrating through actions that loyalty and reciprocity are core values. Women who approach relationships this way, contributing equally, communicating honestly, and building slowly, often find men who never fully close the door or who are willing to reconsider for the right situation. But the third option, relying on temporary or multiple arrangements driven primarily by survival needs, is the riskiest and least sustainable. It may provide short term relief, but it erodes trust on a societal level and leaves lasting emotional scars on everyone involved. The mechanics of that third option deserve closer examination because they reveal why it ultimately fails so often. When hardship pushes someone toward a relationship primarily for stability, the foundation is inherently unstable. Affection can be feigned or felt in the moment. Gratitude can mimic deeper emotions, and cohabitation can happen quickly under the guise of convenience. But genuine long term commitment requires shared vision, mutual sacrifice, and attraction that endures beyond immediate need. Without those elements, the arrangement functions more like a lease than a partnership, renewable monthly as long as utility remains high, terminable when better terms appear elsewhere. The man providing the stability often senses this on some level, even if he cannot articulate it early on. Over time, small inconsistencies add up: lack of future planning, divided attention, reluctance to integrate lives fully, and doubt creeps in. When the woman eventually exits, often with little warning once her situation improves, the man is left picking up the pieces and questioning every signal he thought he read correctly. That experience hardens him, and his caution spreads to friends, brothers, co workers, and online communities. Multiply that single exit by thousands, and you see why the trust deficit grows exponentially. Men learn to treat sudden interest with skepticism, especially when it coincides with widely discussed economic struggles. They learn to ask questions they never thought they would need to ask. Why now? What changed? Are you bringing as much to the table as you expect to take? These are not cynical questions, they are protective ones born from collective pain. And because the answers often reveal pragmatic rather than passionate motives, more men decide the safest course is continued solitude. Looking at the data behind the rhetoric helps ground this discussion. Marriage rates in many Western countries have been declining steadily for years, hitting record lows in places like the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. Cohabitation rises temporarily, but often dissolves without leading to lasting unions. Birth rates sit well below replacement levels in most developed nations, with no meaningful reversal in sight despite policy efforts. Home ownership among young adults lags far behind previous generations, partly because single incomes struggle against inflated prices. All these trends interlock, reinforcing the rationality of delaying or avoiding partnership altogether. When combining resources no longer feels necessary for survival and instead feels like adding risk, the calculus changes dramatically. Men who have embraced this calculus are reaping rewards that extend far beyond finances. Mental health improves markedly when drama and uncertainty are removed from daily life. Sleep deepens without the background anxiety of relationship tension. Productivity soars when weekends are spent advancing personal goals rather than managing emotional conflicts or social obligations. Physical health benefits from consistent gym routines uninterrupted by late nights out or recovery from arguments. Creativity flourishes in quiet spaces once filled with negotiation and compromise. The cumulative effect is a life that feels expansive rather than constrained, purposeful rather than reactive. Women navigating the same landscape face a different set of pressures, but have parallel opportunities for growth. Those who invest deeply in their own capabilities, learning trades, advancing in careers, building side incomes, cultivating rich friendships, often report similar satisfaction with solo living, even if the cultural narrative still pushes toward partnership as the ultimate goal. They travel alone or with friends, decorate homes to their exact taste, pursue passions without negotiation, and enjoy the same mental clarity that men describe. For these women, the absence of willing male partners becomes less a crisis and more a neutral fact, managed through resilience and community. But for women who still measure success heavily by relationship status or family formation, the current environment feels increasingly hostile. Complaints about the lack of commitment ready men grow louder, yet the proposed solutions often focus on changing male behavior rather than examining the conditions that drove men away in the first place. Expecting men who found profound peace in solitude to abandon it because others now desire their presence ignores the depth of the shift that has already occurred. Peace, once tasted, becomes non negotiable. The role of technology in accelerating this divide cannot be overlooked. Dating apps that once promised abundance now highlight scarcity for many women as male participation drops. Social media amplifies both sides. Men sharing success stories of solo living, women expressing frustration at dating fatigue. Algorithms reward polarizing content, deepening echo chambers where each group feels validated in their choices. Virtual entertainment, streaming services, gaming, and online communities fill evenings that once required partnered activities. Delivery apps and automation reduce the practical need for shared household labor. All these innovations make high quality solitary living not just possible, but comfortable and engaging. As we project forward another 5 or 10 years, the most likely outcome is further entrenchment rather than reversal. Men who walked away early are now in their prime earning years, accumulating wealth and assets that make independence even more secure. Younger men coming of age watch their older brothers, uncles, and mentors thriving alone and choose similar paths from the start, bypassing the trial and error phase entirely. Women entering adulthood inherit a world where dual income households are ideal but not always achievable, pushing more toward careers that offer genuine security rather than relying on partnership as insurance. Governments and institutions may try various interventions: family tax credits, housing subsidies, fertility campaigns. But material incentives rarely override deeply felt personal freedom. People form families when the emotional and cultural conditions feel right, not merely when the economics improve slightly. Until trust is rebuilt through consistent demonstration of mutual value and respect, the trends will continue downward for traditional pairing. The men who pioneered this walkaway movement did not do so out of hatred or revenge. They did it out of self respect and rational assessment of risk. They listened when told they were not needed and proved it to themselves by building lives that do not need traditional roles to feel complete. Now, as broader society feels the strain of economic hardship, the wisdom of that choice becomes clearer every day. Women facing desperation will make the choices available to them, but expecting discarded options to suddenly become desirable again misunderstands how deeply the shift has taken root. All roads, as they say, lead to the same destination: men walking away, guarding their peace, building their futures, and leaving behind a landscape where loyalty must be earned anew rather than assumed. The era of default partnership is over, replaced by deliberate choice on both sides. Those who choose wisely, building authentic lives first and foremost, will navigate the future best, regardless of relationship status. The momentum behind men choosing solitude over modern relationships shows no signs of slowing as we move further into this decade, because the underlying drivers, economic uncertainty, eroded trust, and the proven viability of independent living, continue to strengthen rather than weaken. Men who made the choice years ago are now role models for younger generations entering adulthood with eyes wide open to the risks involved in traditional pairing. These younger men grow up hearing stories from fathers, older brothers, and online mentors about the peace that comes from focusing solely on personal growth without the complications of romantic obligations. They see it's the tangible results: paid off debts, growing investment accounts, improved physiques, and calendars filled with activities chosen purely for enjoyment rather than compromise. The appeal is immediate and obvious, making the walkaway lifestyle not a fallback position, but a primary aspiration from the start. Let us trace the arc of one such younger man to illustrate how the pattern perpetuates itself across generations. He's 24, recently graduated from a trade school with a certification in HVAC, and already earning more than many of his college educated peers. Growing up, he watched his father navigate a difficult divorce that left the family home sold, savings depleted, and years of emotional recovery required. His older cousins shared similar stories of relationships that started with promise but ended with one sided financial and emotional burdens. From an early age, he absorbed the message that independence was the safest route, reinforced by online content that laid out clear steps for building wealth and health without needing a partner. He moved into a modest apartment with roommates chosen for compatibility rather than romance, maxed out his retirement contributions from day one on the job, hit the gym 5 days a week, and spent weekends learning new skills like welding or coding on the side. Dating apps were downloaded briefly out of curiosity, but quickly deleted when the interactions felt superficial and demanding. Women his age expressed interest occasionally, but the conversations often circled toward complaints about money, living costs, or past partners who did not provide enough. He listened politely, offered neutral advice when asked, but kept firm boundaries. His life already felt full and directed, with goals mapped out for the next decade that did not include factoring in another person's variables. As economic headlines grow more dire and friends start talking about how hard it is to afford basics on single incomes, he feels gratitude rather than anxiety. Knowing his path avoids the potential trap of becoming a temporary solution for someone else's challenges. This young man's mindset is increasingly common among his peers, creating a cultural tipping point where opting out becomes the default rather than the exception. Schools no longer prepare boys primarily for provider roles. Media rarely portrays traditional commitment as aspirational without heavy caveats. And social circles normalize solo living as a valid long term choice. The result is a generation of men entering their prime years already committed to self reliance, with little interest in reversing course, even if conditions improve dramatically. Peace and autonomy, once experienced consistently, become baseline expectations rather than luxuries. Women observing this shift from the outside often express bewilderment or frustration, wondering why men seem less motivated to pursue or commit than in previous eras. The explanation lies in the changed incentive structure. Pursuit once carried social rewards and a clear path to family and legacy, but now it carries primarily risks with rewards that can be achieved more reliably alone. Legacy for these men takes different forms: mentoring apprentices at work, building businesses that employ others, creating content that inspires thousands, or simply accumulating resources to support causes they value. Family through partnership is no longer seen as the only or best way to leave a mark. For women who still prioritize partnership and family, the shrinking pool of willing men creates intense competition and pressure to adapt quickly. Those who succeed often share common traits: financial independence, or clear progress toward it, emotional maturity demonstrated through accountability and communication, and a willingness to build slowly rather than rush toward cohabitation or commitment for practical reasons. They approach men with respect for their chosen lifestyle, offering genuine companionship and shared growth rather than expecting provision as a default. These women understand that trust must be rebuilt from the ground up, earned through consistency over months and years rather than assumed based on gender roles. When they find alignment with men who remained selectively open, the resulting partnerships tend to be strong and balanced, rooted in mutual choice rather than necessity. But many women facing mounting economic and social pressures may feel tempted toward shortcuts that undermine long term success. Entering relationships primarily for stability, maintaining backup options discreetly, or escalating quickly to secure resources can provide immediate relief, but almost always unravels eventually. Men have become adept at recognizing the patterns. Sudden, intense interest after periods of indifference, early discussions of shared living to cut costs, or reluctance to contribute equally while benefiting disproportionately. Online communities share these observations freely, creating a collective intelligence that protects members from common pitfalls. A man burned once becomes cautious forever. A man warned by dozens of others often avoids the fire entirely. This heightened awareness transforms dating into a far more deliberate process for the minority of men still participating. They invest time only after extensive vetting, prioritizing women who demonstrate self sufficiency and clear compatibility over those who present immediate chemistry but questionable long term motives. Dates focus on observing actions rather than accepting words at face value. Does she reach for the check occasionally, plan activities thoughtfully, communicate directly about needs rather than hinting passively? These filters, while sounding cold in description, arise from hard learned lessons and serve to protect the peace men have worked to cultivate. The broader economy amplifies all these dynamics as costs continue rising faster than most wages. Groceries, fuel, insurance, and rent consume larger portions of income, leaving less margin for error or generosity. Single individuals feel the squeeze acutely, but those in unbalanced partnerships often feel it worse when one side carries disproportionate load. Men who anticipate this reality choose to shoulder their own burdens alone rather than risk carrying double while receiving half the loyalty. Women who built lives assuming eventual partnership support discover the assumption no longer holds as reliably, forcing rapid recalibration of expectations and strategies. Communities adapt in fascinating ways to fill the gaps left by declining traditional pairing. Men's groups proliferate, offering spaces for deep discussion, skill sharing, and mutual accountability without romantic subtext. Adventure clubs, investment circles, fitness challenges, and volunteer networks provide the social connection once sought primarily through dating. Women form parallel networks focused on career advancement, financial education, and emotional support, recognizing the need for robust safety nets independent of male involvement. These parallel ecosystems reduce the felt necessity of cross gender partnership for basic human needs like belonging and purpose. Technology continues enabling the separation by providing ever better substitutes for partnered living. Advanced AI companions offer conversation and emotional processing without demands or conflict. Virtual reality creates immersive experiences once requiring travel with others. Automated homes handle chores efficiently for one person. Remote work allows location independence without needing to coordinate with a partner's career. All these innovations lower the practical barriers to high quality solo living while raising the relative cost of maintaining a shared household. Looking at demographic projections reinforces the permanence of these shifts. Populations in many developed countries are already aging rapidly as birth rates remain stubbornly low. Immigration policies attempt to offset the decline but bring their own cultural frictions. Pension systems strain under fewer workers supporting more retirees. Healthcare demands grow while the family structures that once provided informal elder care weaken. Policymakers debate solutions ranging from increased automation to pronatalist incentives, but few address the core issue of eroded interpersonal trust driving the trends. Men who walked away early now approach middle age with assets, health, and networks that position them well for whatever comes next. They own homes outright or with minimal mortgages, have diversified investments cushioning market volatility, maintain fitness levels that reduce medical needs, and enjoy social circles that provide meaning without obligation. Their lives stand as proof that the old script, work hard, find a partner, build a family, retire comfortably, was not the only path to security and fulfillment. Women navigating the same future have models of success among those who embraced full self reliance from the beginning. Career focused women with strong portfolios, multiple income streams, and rich friendships report high life satisfaction, comparable to their male counterparts. They travel extensively, pursue advanced degrees or creative passions, and structure lives around personal priorities rather than societal timelines. For them, the absence of widespread male commitment becomes a manageable fact rather than a defining crisis. The central truth remains unchanged. Men discovered peace in solitude and have no compelling reason to abandon it as conditions grow harder for others. Women facing increased desperation will make choices shaped by their circumstances, but loyalty rooted in necessity rather than desire rarely endures through changing seasons. Vigilance protects those men still open to connection, while most continue building lives unencumbered by the risks they once accepted unquestioningly. Society evolves toward a new equilibrium where individual choice reigns supreme over paired obligation, where strength is measured by self sufficiency first and relational skills second. Those who adapt earliest and most thoroughly, building skills, networks, and resources independently, position themselves best regardless of relationship status. The era of default expectations has ended, replaced by deliberate decisions made with eyes open to reality. All paths forward confirm the direction already taken. Men walking away, guarding their peace, shaping futures on their own terms, and leaving behind a landscape transformed by the simple act of listening when told they were not needed. The pattern we have been tracing throughout this discussion is now so firmly established that it shapes not only individual lives, but entire cultural subsystems, from entertainment to policy to everyday social interactions. Men who chose solitude a decade ago are now entering their most productive and secure years with compounded investments, established routines, and social networks that provide all the support once expected from romantic partners. They mentor younger men, not out of obligation, but genuine camaraderie, passing down practical knowledge about finances, fitness, boundaries, and purpose that bypasses the pitfalls of modern dating entirely. This transmission of wisdom accelerates the trend, ensuring that each new cohort of men starts with even stronger defenses and clearer vision than the last. The walkaway movement is no longer a reaction. It is a proactive philosophy of life built on self mastery and deliberate choice. Let us follow one final extended story that ties many of these threads together: the journey of a man now in his mid 30s who represents the composite experience of millions. He grew up in a working class family where his father worked long hours to provide, while his mother managed the home, a traditional arrangement that seemed stable until it suddenly was not. A divorce in his late teens showed him how quickly years of shared effort could dissolve, with his father left financially strained and emotionally guarded for years afterward. Heading into adulthood, he absorbed mixed messages: pursue career success, be a good partner, build a family, but also navigate a world where loyalty felt increasingly conditional and risk heavily skewed. He dated through his 20s, experiencing a series of relationships that started with excitement but devolved into imbalance. He was expected to plan, pay, initiate, and emotionally support, while reciprocity often lagged. Breakups left him questioning his judgment, and the recovery periods drained time and resources he could have invested elsewhere. Around age 30, after yet another partnership ended abruptly when his then girlfriend secured a better job and no longer needed his support with rent, he reached a turning point. He paused dating entirely, deleted the apps, and redirected every ounce of energy inward. The first few months felt strange, the quiet evenings almost too quiet, but soon the benefits emerged unmistakably. Sleep improved, savings grew, gym progress accelerated, and mental clarity returned in waves. He took courses online to advance his career, negotiated a raise, and started a small side business restoring vintage furniture. Weekends filled with projects, time with close friends, and solo trips to national parks where he hiked trails at his own pace without negotiation. Within 2 years, he bought a modest house in a growing suburb, something that felt impossible while splitting expenses unevenly in past relationships. His circle of male friends deepened as they shared similar paths, hosting regular gatherings for barbecues, poker nights, and honest conversations about goals and challenges. Women from his past occasionally resurfaced as economic conditions tightened, expressing interest or hinting at catching up, but he recognized the pattern clearly now. The interest aligned too neatly with broader struggles, and he valued his peace far too highly to entertain disruption. Today, he wakes up each morning in a home he owns outright, works a job he enjoys with flexibility he negotiated, maintains a physique he is proud of, and has investment accounts projected to support early retirement if he chooses. His life is rich, purposeful, and calm in a way he never imagined possible during his dating years. He mentors younger coworkers, sharing practical advice without preaching, and feels profound gratitude for the path he chose. Stories like his are now commonplace, told quietly among men who understand, and amplified online for those still searching for direction. Women watching this transformation unfold across society face a reckoning with the full implications of the independence narrative they were encouraged to embrace. For years, the message was empowering: focus on career, travel, experiences, and self discovery. First, partnership can come later or not at all. Many followed that advice diligently, building impressive resumes, social media highlight reels, and lifestyles filled with freedom. Yet, as biological clocks tick louder for some, housing costs spiral higher, and economic uncertainty deepens, the later part of that narrative reveals its blind spots. Partnership delayed becomes partnership denied for a growing number, not because of personal shortcomings, but because the pool of men willing to engage has contracted dramatically. The men who remain available often carry their own cautions, shaped by past experiences or influenced by the broader cultural shift. Competition intensifies among women still seeking traditional outcomes, while the cultural conversation struggles to acknowledge the root causes without assigning blame. Those women who adapt most successfully tend to share a clear set of strategies. They prioritize financial literacy early, building emergency funds, retirement accounts, and multiple income streams long before hardship forces the issue. They cultivate deep friendships and chosen family networks that provide emotional support and practical help during tough times. They approach potential relationships with transparency and equality, demonstrating through actions that they bring value beyond need. They invest in personal growth continuously, maintaining health, skills, and emotional resilience that make them attractive partners on merit rather than necessity. These women often find connection with the smaller subset of men who never fully close the door, forming partnerships that feel chosen rather than compulsory. Their success stories offer hope and a roadmap for others willing to shift priorities. And for women who continue relying on pragmatic or temporary arrangements as a primary buffer against hardship, the outcomes grow increasingly predictable and unfavorable. Short term stability gained through relationships entered primarily for resources rarely transitions into long term security. The underlying mismatch in motives surfaces eventually, leading to exits that leave both sides wounded. Men recover by reinforcing boundaries and sharing warnings, while women face reputational consequences and emotional fatigue from repeated cycles. The strategy that might have worked in easier times collapses under scrutiny in an era of widespread awareness. Society as a whole absorbs these changes gradually, with ripple effects touching everything from housing markets to workplace dynamics to entertainment content. Single person households increase demand for smaller, efficient living spaces, while larger family homes sit longer on markets. Employers adjust benefits packages to attract talent in a world where family formation is less common, emphasizing flexibility, remote options, and personal development perks over traditional family leave assumptions. Media begins reflecting the new reality slowly, with more stories centered on individual achievement and chosen solitude rather than romantic pursuit as the central arc. Policy debates shift toward supporting individual resilience, expanded education access, universal basic services, affordable housing initiatives, rather than relying on family structures to absorb economic shocks. The men at the forefront of this shift continue building legacies that transcend traditional definitions. Some start foundations or scholarship programs funded by their accumulated wealth. Others create content platforms that reach millions with messages of empowerment through self reliance. Many quietly support parents, siblings, or community members without the complications of romantic entanglement. Their impact grows not through loud proclamation, but consistent example, proving daily that a life well lived need not follow the old blueprint. Younger generations inherit a world already transformed, where the default assumption is individual capability first and partnership as an optional enhancement second. Boys grow up seeing male role models thrive without constant romantic drama, learning early to prioritize education, health, finances, and meaningful connections over chasing approval. Girls receive similar messages of strength through independence, though some cultural pockets still emphasize partnership as a primary goal. The wisest among both groups build lives robust enough to stand alone while remaining open to addition rather than dependent on it. As we look toward the horizon, the trajectory remains clear and consistent. Economic pressures will ebb and flow, but the trust deficit built over decades will not rebuild quickly or easily. Men who discovered profound peace and solitude guard it as their most valuable asset, unwilling to trade it for uncertain returns. Women navigating hardship will continue making choices shaped by available options, but expecting men to reverse course en masse ignores the depth of transformation already achieved. Vigilance protects those few still open to connection, while the majority continue forward unencumbered. The story of modern gender dynamics is ultimately one of choices and consequences playing out over generations. Messages sent were received and acted upon, leading to a rebalancing where individual sovereignty takes precedence over paired obligation. Those who embrace this reality earliest, building comprehensive lives rooted in self sufficiency and chosen connections, navigate the future with greatest ease and fulfillment. The era of assumed roles and default expectations has closed, replaced by deliberate architecture of personal destiny. All roads, without exception, continue leading to the same unmistakable destination: men walking away, cultivating peace, shaping empires of one, and redefining strength in an age of individual choice. What do you think about what was discussed here today? Do you agree with this analysis or do you see things differently based on your own experiences? Leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts as I read them all, and it helps spark great conversations in the community. Like the video if you like it, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video, and just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.